Hey, what's going on, Liberty fans? Welcome into another edition of the VinesPomcast. My name is Nick Kirby. We are so excited to have you with us tonight as we talk about the red hot Liberty Flames basketball team. Will, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Great time to be a flame, as always.
Very
You okay, Nick?
yeah. Introduce Naz. I'll be right back.
We've got Liberty legend in the house with us, Paul Nazigian. Paul, thanks for being here. I love the NASCAR podcast. Listen to you guys every week. Glean so much insight. Even there are times when I'm on here with Nick, and Nick is so he has so many insights about college basketball, and he's so in tune with Ken Palm. And sometimes I don't have much to contribute. I just listen to you guys and repeat what you say.
No, I appreciate the invite to get on with you guys, and yeah, I mean, right back at you. I mean, we're doing our show, and you guys are doing a great show. I just really love that there's just so much people just investing time and putting out more Liberty content. We got such a great team, and it's great talking about it. But yeah, man, you guys crank out some great stuff, man. You guys get into the numbers and a lot of the analytics and metrics. I'm telling you, man, you guys, I like your stuff. I get on there and read, and I'm telling you, some of that stuff I take onto the broadcast. And so yeah, it's great to have a chance to get on the show with you guys.
Awesome. Well, I'm back. Sorry, I was pulling an EKU over here. For some reason, I left my browser open with the YouTube, so I was hearing you guys twice, like in a echo, and I didn't know where I was talking. So
Yeah, that was like the EKU.
it was literally identical. So I guess I cannot make fun of them because I literally just did the exact same thing. So
well, but see, the difference is you fixed it.
I did fix it in like 30
took them
seconds.
Like 10 minutes or something.
That's a great point. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. It is
Naz. You guys are friends. My friends call me Naz, and so you guys are my friends.
Naz, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight and chatting with Liberty. Will, did we have Naz tell a little bit about himself yet? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Naz from broadcasting games on TV and radio, and of course, former coach at Liberty. And so, but Naz, just tell us a little bit about kind of how you came to the Mountain and kind of what your role has been within the program.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll have to date myself, but yeah, a long time ago, I got to Liberty in '85, and was there as came as a player, and so some great years there as Liberty transitioned from Division II to Division I, and then so I was there '85 to '90, and then graduated. I went out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to coach high school for a few years. And then came back in '93 to be on staff from '93 to '98. And, like we were talking before, Nick, I was on the '94 staff that went to the NCAA tournament. After '98, I lived in Lynchburg and just sort of stayed connected with the program a little bit in different, in kind of smaller ways. But as the university started to do more with television and radio, they kind of reached out to me. I mean, Tim Scarborough, the guy I do the NASCAR podcast with, is just, man, he's just a longtime friend. It's funny. We played high school ball in rival high schools. We both come to Liberty, play together at Liberty. We coached together for a couple years. So we've been lifetime friends, and, Scar had a little more broadcasting in his background, and so he got on as the color commentator. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Liberty was doing kind of like a halftime desk, and they needed some other people. And so Scar and some of the LFSN guys reached out to me as a former player and coach, and they said, "You want to help us with the halftime desk?" I have no background in broadcasting, but I said I can talk basketball. Just kind of tell me where to look, and I'll do my best. And so that's kind of what got me into the broadcasting. And then when Scar moved on, I kind of moved into the analyst chair. So been around Liberty basketball a long time, and I always say this, and it's really true. It's just such a privilege to be around this program. Just have seen it grow, been kind of a part of it, a small part of that. But I just love seeing the new players come through, and we've had our ups and downs over the years, but right now what's happening with Liberty basketball is absolutely incredible. Coach Bakay and Coach Susie and Coach Johnson and the rest. I mean, they just have this thing rolling, and it's great for us to just, be a part of it and not only kind of talk about it, but watch it as a fan too. It's really amazing.
Well, I definitely think they made the right choice. Because when I listen to you, I feel like you're just one of us. I mean, I just kind of feel like you're a guy just watching basketball, and when the team's not doing well, you don't pull any punches, and I just really enjoy your work. So, and always have. So
I appreciate that. And, Matt working with man, sometimes, I'll jump on with Alan, and Alan's incredible. And Matt, I mean, we're friends, and we got a good dynamic, but man, he is just so great at what he does. It makes it easy. And that's, we kind of talk about, everybody has sort of a style. And I mean, I think some of our camaraderie and friendship kind of shows through in the broadcast, but, I mean, that's what I try to do. Like, I don't want to be, I kind of want to feel like I'm one of your buddies watching the game with you and talking about it a little bit. So I try not to overload the stats too much, but I try to give some insight, certainly being a player and a coach. I just sort of want to feel like, hey, I'm on the couch with you watching Liberty basketball. But it's just such a fun thing to do. And I treasure every season I get to call the games.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, seriously. And I'm not blowing smoke because you're on here. Between you and Matt and Alan, I mean, I watch a ton of college basketball, way too much. That's my wife. I watch a lot, and you guys are better than any ESPN Plus broadcast I've seen. And honestly, you guys could absolutely be a national, like a CBS Sports Network. You guys are just as good as any of those guys. You guys do a phenomenal job, and just such a great representation for our university, for a high quality broadcast. You guys, I there's a lot of work you put into that. I don't sugarcoat it here. You guys put in a lot of work, and you're always really well prepared. And it's so awesome as a fan to be able to tune into that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we do want to do our best. We do think the fans, the university deserves it. We want to put out a top-notch product. But again, I got to say, like, all the people behind the scenes that you don't see, I mean, they got my ugly mug on camera, me and Matt, but I mean, there's so many people in that LFSN crew that make that thing run and look so professional. So you can't forget those guys. Too many to name, but everybody up there just does such a great job. And yeah, it's a product that you're proud to be a part of, and that the fans can be proud of.
Awesome. Before we jump into the team, as we'll obviously try to spend the bulk of our show tonight talking about the current team, Naz, I got to ask you, you are someone who has been through Liberty basketball, like all the way through here. It felt like Liberty over the last, I don't know. I went to school. I started in 2005. Will was a little bit before that. Felt like Liberty was kind of on this, nice little trajectory, kept going and going. But do you feel like we feel like all of a sudden it was just a boom like 3 years ago, and like, oh wow, we've like arrived as a legit top mid-major program? Do you feel like that?
I do. And again, just sort of knowing where Liberty came from. And I've sort of said this before, like there were some milestones or steps as you look back. I mean, obviously, going from Division II to Division I, kind of getting into a conference, certainly, winning that first championship. I mean, these are like big plateaus. And like you said, yeah, the Liberty was moving up, making some waves and things like that, getting some notoriety. But yeah, the next big step we're kind of part of it right now. I mean, it's really unprecedented. And kind of at a time when, like even this, like media, regular media, social media, like at a time when there's more avenues, we're playing our best. And so it's like, we were at the prime time to just sort of, when everybody's can get access to stuff. It's Liberty's been, so this last step, these last few years, it's been amazing. I think, and Coach has said this a lot, like, we take it for granted. And I think you got to fight against that because it's so unbelievably hard what they're doing, and they make it look easy. But I mean, 3 conference championships, 3 tournament championships, NCAA appearances. It's really, it's way harder than they're making it look. And so, yeah, I enjoy it. Sometimes I sit back too, and I'm just sort of amazed. But yeah, what a time to be a Flame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Naz, you made a good point, because I was going to say something about it later, but while we're on it anyway, Coach McKay said something about kind of this attitude of entitlement the other day. And, it wasn't really clear, like, if he was talking about players or fans or media or kind of who he was talking about. I mean, I kind of assumed it was the players, but, just taking wins for granted. And part of me thinks that, like, some of our younger fans, some of maybe the students are in school now, all they've known is winning programs, which is, it's kind of wild, like, I mean, we're looking at possibly winning the ASUN every year that we're in it. I mean, possibly. But, a lot of us have been around where there was some lean years. And so while you do fight that entitlement, kind of notion, sometimes you just kind of have to think about, we are not where we used to be. Right. And so part of me doesn't feel entitled, because I know that, it might not be like this forever. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Us 3, we've been around. Yeah, there were some lean years, some tough times. The program was not in great shape. And again, that's not pointing any fingers at anybody, but
Sure.
yeah, the job that Coach has done. Yeah, I mean, certainly in his first stint, but coming back for the second stint now, just amazing. And I say this too, like, it's not just the success. And this means a lot to me and to, like, former players. Scar and I talk about that. Success is great, but it's the manner in which they're doing it, with class, with excellence, with guys that are Liberty guys that represent the school and Christ in the right way. That means a lot, because you can go out and get championships with a bunch of guys that aren't on the same page, and you look around and there's teams kicking guys off teams, and there's animosity, and there's not guys getting in trouble in off hours. And so I just am thrilled with the success, but how they're doing it, and with the guys that the coaches are bringing in, I mean, it's a class act all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. One more quick comment on that. I think I ran the numbers not that long ago. For me, the most impressive thing is the 3 tournament championships in a row. I don't think people realize how difficult that is. I believe the numbers, I think it was 17% was the odds of Liberty, not just anyone, Liberty, with the odds for each tournament of winning all 3. It's an incredible accomplishment what they've been able to do. So yeah, don't ever take those tournament championships for granted. Those are just so difficult. But let's get into the games. We'll start off with, we have 4 games to cover.
Where did we leave off?
And it's not like we really went that long without recording a show. It's just been like 4 games in like the last 9 days or something.
Yeah,
it's been ridiculous.
Been a tough stretch for them.
Well, we'll rip off the Band-Aid first and talk about the Jacksonville State game. Naz, this was actually the last game that you called. So we'll start with you. What was your thoughts? Liberty loses this one 77-67. It was Liberty's first loss in a million years. First loss ever at Liberty Arena. 45-game home win streak was snapped. Naz, what was your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think the win streak kind of, I mean, yes, it was sad that it ended, but I think that sort of added to this feeling that it was a little worse than it was. I mean, and you guys know this because, you follow the conference and as Scar and I do our show, like, coming in, we knew Jacksonville State was a really good team. In fact, I went to a couple practices and I'm talking with the coaches, and I distinctly remember, Coach Johnson going, "Man, Jacksonville State, they're really good." So that happens every night. You know what I mean? Like, there's great teams that battle, and somebody's going to come up on the short end of the stick. And so I just think it was at home and the winning streak, and it's sort of, we kind of left there, and I think it was a little heavier on everybody. But I mean, if you look back at it, the whole first half is back and forth, and they go on that little run right before halftime, and we go in down 13. But we come out, and man, what a great comeback! Make a run. I think we cut it to 5 on 4 different occasions. We're right there. It's like, so they're hitting everything. We're a little bit off, and it finishes at 10. It's like, they got 4 seniors, and this was the thing that struck me. Like, I sat there and I was watching. I'm going, who I'm looking at? I'm looking at 2 years ago when we had 4 seniors. Mayo, Scotty, Caleb, Georgie. Like, you'd go on the road with that group and they just pounded people. And it's like, that's tough when you got 4 seniors that are experienced, they don't fold under, it's like, so that was a good team. And I love our team, and I hope to get them again. I hope we see them again, because I think, if a couple shots fall our way, a couple of theirs don't fall, I think it's a different story. So I don't think I didn't make too much out of it, although, sad to see us come up on the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I mean, no question, it was a big game because just holding that tiebreaker is going to be huge for the tournament. Yeah. So it's a tough loss. There's no sugarcoating that.
Yep.
Naz, I felt like the game to me spoke more about Jacksonville State than Liberty. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's sort of my point. I agree with you. Like, it just kind of showed what they have. They got, they got a bunch of transfer guys that have played in other programs, a couple grad transfers. I mean, the big kid, transfer from UNC. I mean, these are seasoned guys. So you're right, Nick. It's like, I think it showed the caliber that they are. And you got to remember, I know, everybody, when you come, or we're off COVID, right? But there's still lingering effects, and so, we got through the North Alabama game and everybody was back, but I mean, Keegan was a question mark for this game. And so, like, I think there's still some of that at play. So you're right. I know we didn't give them our best shot, but I think it took their best shot to beat us.
I feel like the atmosphere was really great as well. This game, to me, watching at home, felt, oh yeah, this is going to be fun playing with these guys in Conference USA. With all due respect to the rest of the ASUN, there's some good teams and some programs, but there's a lot of programs that aren't established yet in the ASUN. We're going to get to see games like this all the time in Conference USA. That, to me, I know it was a loss, but I kind of left going, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to have these competitive games that you really feel, the energy and the enthusiasm with the game.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be some great battles, some good teams in Conference USA. And I mean, see, there's a perfect example. You guys put out that stat of where was it the Ken Palm where we would fit in right now with Conference USA, and that's nice to see. I mean, it's like there'll be some tough games, but I like that. I mean, if you kind of look at and again, just sort of projecting. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be up near the top of the conference, and so that's exciting too. Like, to get some of these big games, it'd be fun to kind of see who becomes our rival, and maybe it is Jacksonville State, since we'll both sort of come from the ASUN. But yeah, exciting times ahead, and exciting times currently too as we go through the ASUN.
Well, so this morning at church, I preached on disappointment, and I think it came from this game. I went to bed disappointed that night over the win streak and, first ever loss at Liberty Arena and possibly losing the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. But I woke up the next day thinking about that Lipscomb game a few years ago. Now, granted, Lipscomb beat us by 40 on our home court and just ran us
Yeah.
out of the vines that day. So it wasn't quite as bad as that. But Jacksonville State showed this week that they are beatable. So, if we see them again, more than likely it'll be the conference championship or the tournament championship. And so I'll be looking forward to a rematch if possible, just to kind of see. And as I had a question about this, but, if you're Coach McKay and you lose a game like that to a really good team, as you said, a lot of seniors, when you go back and watch the film on this game, what are you looking at in order to game plan possibly a next game against them?
Yeah, I mean, you'll certainly look. I mean, again, and you would sort of know your own, execution and some of the inside info that none of us sort of have. They will certainly gauge their sort of effort and execution of what they really were trying to do. But shot, penetration was a big thing. Gibbs, I think was his name. Just really got in the paint too much. So, I mean, I think they'll go back and say, what are we doing with guarding the ball? And then, so they'll look at the shots. Are the shots contested? And that's something they chart, every game, every shot. And they'll say, hey, were we there contesting or did they get kind of some free looks? But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. One thing about, I think this game wasn't anything that would make Liberty say, we got to do something different than who we are. And so, that's the thing. Sometimes they see like that Lipscomb loss. I mean, you lose by 40, sometimes you're something like, do we really need to make some major changes? But this game, I don't think, there's any reason to say, look, we were just a little bit off. We'll clean a few things up, but who we are and what we do will enable us to win if we kind of put it all together. So
it felt like a little maybe early in the game, Liberty wasn't running all the way through the offense. Felt like maybe there was some rush shots, maybe trying to do a little too much with the crowd and the energy. And I'm with you, on not changing up too much. I mean, I think McGee was 4 for 15. He's not going to have many nights like that.
Right.
McGee goes 7 for 15, 6 for 15. It's a different game. So, it completely flips it. But one last point in the game, one thing I kind of wanted to ask real quick to Naz. Felt like maybe there might be a tiny bit of beef with McKay and Ray Harper, who Ray Harper's a really, really good coach who's been doing it for a while. Kind of was like Harper kind of has that like perfect villain, like that Casey Alexander. Like, it was such a shame that he left Lipscomb because I love a good villain, and Casey Alexander was the perfect villain.
Yeah, I think. And it's a little bit early. I mean, I don't know Jacksonville State. I don't know, but teams and coaches have a reputation. But it'll be interesting to see because like as I watched a couple games to get ready for our broadcast, I know one of them I watched when Jacksonville played Kennesaw. And they got guys like talking trash and cussing people. I'm like, me and Matt were texting them, we're both kind of watching and, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And it's all the same thing. A lot of talking in the other one I watched. And you saw it at our place, once they knew that the game was in hand, guys started yapping a little bit. And, that's part of the game. So that's not the big deal. But I'm like, okay, is that part of who they are? Because that'll be very interesting. Like, because, that's not going to happen on our program. Coach McKay's not going to stand for that. Other guys might be like, hey, that's okay. let them, it may be part of their little, intimidation. So it's going to be very interesting. And again, I don't fault anybody. I mean, nothing was egregious, but you're right. They may, how should we say, embrace that role of being a villain and Coach Harper. I don't know. There was a little tension that I saw too. So that was interesting, but I mean, at the end of it, it's like guys are competitive, man, and it was a big time atmosphere. You guys are right. It was great. It was the lot riding on the game, bragging rights notwithstanding. So they came in and said, "Hey, Liberty's the 3-time champion. Let's give them our best shot." And they earned the right to talk a little bit. But again, that's why I would just love to see them again in the conference tournament championship. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like an athletic department philosophy on Jacksonville State, but a couple years ago we played them in football, and they always have a lot of transfers on their football team. And they've got some transfers on their basketball team, and so obviously next year and then going into the CUSA, it's going to be a completely different team that they have, and I think you're right. I don't think Coach McKay will let our competitive attitude get too far out of hand. But I feel like we've got some guys that don't mind showing some emotion on their sleeves. I feel like Brody is one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I think Keegan is one of those guys. Haven't seen. I really want to see Kyle Rode get at it at some point. Not get too far, get in trouble, get a tech or anything like that. But yeah, I can't wait for this rivalry going into the next conference.
I'm here for it. I need the Reverend to keep me in check watching basketball. So, all right, well, let's move on. We do have 3 other games to talk about. But that was kind of the big one, and especially since Naz was on the call of that game, really wanted to hear his thoughts on that. The next game, Liberty bounced back in just what I called a vintage Liberty performance. I felt like if Richie McKay draws up a game and a performance, this is exactly what he wants. Liberty ran efficient offense all night, and they played just smothering defense. Kennesaw had to work for every single shot. And Liberty won this game by 15, but it didn't feel that close. I mean, Liberty just controlled the game. Liberty's now 8-0 against Kennesaw since joining the ASUN. Kennesaw's having a nice year. They are one of the great stories in college basketball. I think they only won like 2 conference games the last 2 years, and I think they're at 500 right now. So really cool story for them. And we're rooting for them, except for if they play us. Naz, what was your thoughts on this win?
Yeah. So, and I know, much like we're talking about 4 games because they were playing just about every night. So that's, or every other night. So that's kind of a tough run, but I think that was the best thing that happened to them. I mean, 2 nights later after the loss, they're right back. You had no time to sit around and sulk. The next day they're traveling, they're prepping, and then the next day they're playing. So I think that was what they needed, to not worry and just get right back to being who they are. And you're right, Nick. I like how you said that. It was just, vintage Liberty, tough D, ball movement, sharing the basketball, great shot selection. And you're right. It was really at 20 the whole most of the game. And then, when it was, some of the subs came in and cut it to 15. But I liked obviously the win, but you could really see there was no hangover from the loss. They made me feel good. Like they're not worrying about it. They're back to being who they were, took care of business down there. Good showing.
Naz, it feels like Liberty has grown so much on the defensive end, and the numbers really back this up since the start of the season. I was starting to get worried. Hey, Liberty's completely is an offensive program only now, which is fine. I mean, like they're the last couple of years they've been better offensively than defensively. I think people, because of the lower scoring margin, the tempo, kind of get that confused a little bit, but I feel like Liberty's defense is really just improving as the season goes on. And I heard one of the assistant coaches, I think it was Susie, on the Liberty radio show with Alan York, talking about the young guys just learning the system, and that takes time. Long story short, do you feel like the defense has really come a long way this year?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's been overshadowed by Darius's phenomenal play. And whether it's us or when they go on the road and other announcers are talking about it, I mean, and how can you not? I mean, just what a phenomenal year he's having and scoring. And again, just kind of, Keegan's having a great year. Shiloh's emerged. And, so it's like there is a lot of good offensive things to talk about. And that's kind of what's, that's what's sexy. But yeah, the defense is still every bit tough to play against. And so that was sort of my thought, and the timing of this is great because we're talking about Kennesaw. Everybody, and you're right. Like, they're having a good year. They're vastly improved. It's nice to sort of see a program come in that was in shambles, and you kind of see how Coach Abdur Rahim he's bringing in some good guys, and they're making some progress. But here's the thing, like, they're scoring against, like, when you watch them play other people, that's not Liberty's pack line you're playing against. Like, and that's what you saw. Like, you have to just be completely focused and purposeful, and every shot has to count. And they were not ready for that. Like, and again, they're much improved, and they're making some noise this year, but that, you saw what the defense, it wasn't an off night. That's what happens when you play against that defense. I mean, they are really tough. I mean, and everybody, again, it's a unit, but I mean, Van Zant and Warfield, I mean, they can just, like, sick them on people. it's like they could just make your night tough. And Shiloh on defensively, and so it's like, yeah, I think you're right on. Like, it gets overshadowed, but and again, there's always improvements to be made, and that they'll keep working on that and fine tuning it. But yeah, it's still one of the top defenses in the nation.
Yeah, I'll nerd out on here for a second. So last year, Liberty was 153rd in adjusted defensive efficiency, which I feel is the best way to measure because it accounts for the competition and then also for the tempo and style that's played. Liberty's up to 118th right now, so they're actually better than they were last year, and they actually were up to 103 before that EKU game that we'll talk about in a minute, where it was the fourth game in 9 days or whatever.
Right.
So the numbers are really backing up that this team is probably better than last year's team defensively, which is incredible when you lost Elijah Cuffey, who was, it was the defensive player of the year in the conference.
That's right.
Let's move on to the next game here. Liberty 66, Bellarmine 53. This was a wild game. It was played at 1:30 in the afternoon. So Naz, I don't even know if you were able to catch the whole game or not.
Unofficially, I was able to watch some of it.
Don't tell my boss that I canceled a meeting on Thursday afternoon or whatever that was.
What were your guys' thoughts going into this Bellarmine game?
Yeah, well, I was looking forward to it. We played Bellarmine to kind of clinch the conference championship last year, and that was kind of a hype game. And it really wasn't much to it. We just kind of took control of that game. So I was looking forward to this game. This one to me felt like, Jacksonville State aside, this one felt like a little bit of a trap game, especially when it was moved up to 1:30. And I got to watch the first half at home, and then I had to go pick my kids up from school. So I finished it out on the radio, paying attention to it the best as I could. But yeah, it just wasn't, another defensive game, low scoring game that I thought the defense really that highlighted graphic you have there of Shiloh. To me, that says it all. Coach compared him to Danny Granger, which is high praise.
Really, yeah.
So yeah, it was a good game to watch, good game to listen to as well.
Yeah, Liberty came out guns a-blazing. They looked like they were going to blow them out, which they kind of did. They ended up winning by 13, but then Bellarmine, man, they came at it. They got things going. Liberty was down 25-19 and then went on a 13-0 run to end the half and to start the second half and kind of took control of the game. Bellarmine is a weird team to me. You look at them, all due respect, they don't even look like a Division I team, but they run some of the best offense you'll see. If you watch them off the ball, those dudes are moving so much. Like, they have got to be annoying to play against just because of how much they do in that. They're really well coached, and I really think they get the best out of their parts for sure. I think they're a good matchup for Liberty just because I don't think they're good enough on the defensive end. I don't think they have enough size, so I feel like they're a good team for Liberty to match up against. But yeah, I'm with Will. I felt like this was kind of a trap game, and Liberty holding Bellarmine to 53 points, a team that is as good offensively as they are, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I think this one was I was a little nervous going into this one for everything you guys said. Like it was sort of just again as you're just sort of looking at the 3-game road trip, you're sort of like, yeah, the bookends were a little easier. This one, would they be tired? Would this one be the trap? And yeah, I they're just like you said, Nick. They're very well coached. They have a system that they believe in, and again, it's different, but and they execute. Man, they move, they cut. That ball never stops, and they've got some role players that fit what they're doing. I think Penn, their 2 guard, I think he's one of the best players in the conference. I mean, and again, Liberty did a really nice job on him. But he can kind of take over a game. And they've got some nice pieces. They got guys that are very versatile. They got bigs that can step out and shoot threes. So yeah, this was a real great effort on Liberty. Again, we shot well. We played our game and sort of executed our will the way you need to on the road, and just did a nice job defensively. Again, kind of reinforces what we were talking about with the Kennesaw game. Like, our defense travels, and man, they made it tough on them in their home gym. So that was a real big win. I mean, they were 7-1 when we went in there and beat them the other night. So I mean, that's a very good team. That was a real solid road win.
Yeah, they're only.
Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Sorry, as I was say, their only loss was a 5-point loss at Jacksonville State coming into the game.
Right. They're legit.
Yeah. Well, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, it's amazing too that they've just moved up to Division I, and I know they've had success at another level, but yeah, Dylan Penn, he looks really good. CJ Fleming is good.
Yeah, Fleming can. Yep.
They've got some really good talent, and yeah, I don't think that they almost remind me a little bit of Liberty a couple of years ago with Lavelle playing, and that they kind of remind me of that. And so, yeah, I think they're a good program that's going to be solid. And can we get them to the CUSA as well? That would be great.
Yeah, no, I like them. I like them being in a conference with Liberty. They're a fun team, and love that they play in Freedom Hall Arena with such great history.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Penn, he is one of the. I don't know if there's a player like him in college basketball. He's only 6'3". He's only made 6 threes the entire year, but yet he is, by KenPom standard, the second best player in the conference, behind, of course, Darius McGee. I mean, for what he's able to do without being able to stretch the floor, and he was able to score against Liberty, a pack line defense. It's really incredible. He's a heck of a player, and he's a player that you can tell he's worked for everything that he has. One other point on this game, Liberty 14 of 16 from the free throw line. Kyle Rode 7 of 7, and we'll talk about Kyle in a minute. But man, what a run he is on right now! He's just been phenomenal.
How about that half court shot in the first half there?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Will, for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean that was. I mean, man, your Bellarmine, you had a 6-point lead, and then that tied the game at 25 at halftime. That had to be, just.
And it was like, oh, another shot by Darius. Like it wasn't like not even a big deal.
Yeah, that's how ridiculous he is that we weren't even stunned. But.
Yeah.
All right, so the last game, most recent, Liberty 91, Eastern Kentucky 84. KenPom had this as a Liberty as a 7-point favorite, and sure enough, they won by 7. This was one of those games, just get out of there with a win. Being the fourth game in 9 days or whatever. Eastern Kentucky, they're missing some guys. But I think they said on the TV broadcast, from what I could hear, that their best player, or their highest usage player, they're hoping to have back by the ASUN tournament. So they're a team that I would not want to face if I'm Liberty, just because of the tempo that they play and how many turnovers they force. That is Liberty's one Achilles heel is the turnovers, and it's a little different for us because the last 3 years Liberty has been one of the better teams in the country in turnover rate, and this year it for whatever reason it was a problem early. We thought maybe it was fixed, but it's kind of started to show itself here. Um, Naz, what was your thoughts on this win?
Yeah, this one I just sort of figured it'd be interesting because of the two different styles. They want to play fast and they want to just fire up threes and it's like you saw right when the game starts when they're hot, they're as good as anybody when they're hitting shots and playing that way. And luckily we were too. Like we came out and we were hitting shots and it was back and forth, so that made for some real entertaining basketball. And then, like you said, Nick, right when we sort of, thought it was out of that we had it and that the game was sort of out of reach, turnovers kind of bit us, and they were taking turnovers and turned them into points and kind of made it a little bit nerve wracking there at the end. But again, Liberty stepped up, hit their foul shots, and kind of kept them just enough at bay. But yeah, I agree. This is something, and it was kind of interesting. I think you guys kind of mentioned some of the same things we did. We kind of thought Eastern Kentucky was going to be up sort of in the top part of the conference this year, and with some injuries and some sickness and just maybe a couple just bad outings, they were just sort of floundering. But I agree. I think if they get everybody back and have a couple weeks under their belt, this is not a team that you want to run into in the conference tournament.
Yeah, I'm hoping they're on the other side of the bracket, when we get there. This is a team that lost at West Virginia by 3 points. I mean, they took West Virginia down to the wire. They're a team that, man, you might go out and beat them by 30, but they may be on and
yeah,
and just bite you. Will, what was your thoughts on this game?
I just wrote down a few things, but you guys have mostly said it all. Just just how hot both teams came out of the gate. Nobody was missing, but then when Eastern Kentucky had a few misses, Liberty was able to take advantage of those. They ended up with 49 points in the first half. That seemed like a lot at the time for Liberty. And at times it felt like they could have had more possibly. Like it looked to me like just an untrained basketball fan that doesn't have the trained eye for it. Like it looked like they were giving up a lot of good shots to find better ones, and those better ones weren't there. And so I thought they could have probably had more than that. But the turnovers, that's kind of what kept Eastern Kentucky into it. I thought back to the LSU game earlier this year, which was a very winnable game, but those turnovers just absolutely wrecked us in that game. Eastern Kentucky had like the prettiest ball movement that I think I've maybe seen outside of Liberty all year. They were just so fast at getting rid of it. That was kind of fun to watch on their end.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty, this was the 8th best effective field goal percentage in the KenPom era, which goes all the way back to 2002. So Liberty's efficiency-wise shooting was great. Too many turnovers, that's in fairness, that's what Eastern Kentucky wants to do to you. That is their whole defense, is forcing turnovers. It's not really defending, in the half court. They
you're right. They'll gamble and kind of try to shoot gaps, and then they threw that 2-2-1 press, which is not something you see in college a lot, which was interesting. I mean, so it took a couple possessions for Liberty to kind of, see it, identify it, learn, figure out how to attack it. And it was effective. It came up and caught us to kind of second guess some passes or float a couple. So again, they kind of sell out to that gambling style, and at times it's paid off for them. So yeah, if they, we're into February already. So, I mean, if they get everybody back, and you always need a few games to just sort of gel again. If they get back to that form like they were playing in their non-conference, then they could make a little run.
Yeah, they're kind of a fun team to have in the conference too, just because they change Liberty's style a little bit. It's kind of fun to get to see, Liberty play at a faster pace with just how many great offensive weapons that Liberty has. They almost kind of remind me, and I know Will knows this, and I'm sure Naz, you probably remember as well. a little bit of that VMI with Duger Valcom. Naz, do you remember those games? That was my,
Oh my
I
God.
think, freshman year, like that 121, 117 game. I don't know if there is film of that, but please, Naz, get the Liberty department to get that game up on YouTube, because that
Yeah.
was the most fun basketball game against two
Yeah.
really not that good teams. But it was just an awesome, awesome game.
What I remember the most was that the game at VMI that I think me and you went to
No,
that
that
game.
was at home. We went to both of them. The other one was
Okay.
the one at VMI was still in the
Yeah.
hundreds, but the one at Liberty like broke all kinds of records.
Those games were so fun. Alex McLean dropped like 40 points in one of those
He
games.
just stood under the basket and just
Yeah. Yeah. Those were
Yeah,
fun.
it's interesting. And Coach Balcom is down at Citadel and they're doing the same thing. Like that's his style, and it's fun. You can recruit to it because you're like, man, come on in, guys. You'll get the fire up shots, and we're up and down. And it does kind of force you to play at that pace and kind of match them. And so it's very interesting. So that's why, like, going into that Eastern Kentucky game, again, they're not quite, VMI speed, but I knew it was going to be sort of a battle of styles. And so I like the fact that we didn't necessarily try to slow them. We said, hey, let's, we can play at this pace too. And we were hitting shots out of the gate, and finishes in the 90s and 80s. And so it's like, that's good for us to sort of have a game like that, to know that, we can score if it is sort of a high scoring contest. We can go that route too. And certainly we've seen how we come out on top if we can really dictate the pace and really slow things down. So it's nice to be able to do that. And again, we can do that because obviously, Darius is doing his thing. Keegan's been really rock solid all year. Shiloh's emergence as a scorer, Kyle Rhodes' emergence more as a scorer. The other night with 5 guys in double figures. So it's like that's good. Again, it's just adding to our depth and versatility as a team, that we can sort of handle different people in the way they want to play.
I actually got a good question here for Naz from Matt Schubert. Thanks, Matt, for watching and for asking a question here. Matt said he was surprised to see Blake only played 4 minutes. Seemed like he brought good energy early in the game and opened things up for Shiloh. Naz, do you think it was just the matchup? Richie probably wanting more ball handlers on the floor?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. And here's the thing that jumped out at me, and that's a great question, Matt. If you remember the championship game last year, you referenced it there earlier, but Shiloh had a huge game. That was kind of like his breakout game of last year, was down there at Bellarmine. And so I kind of think that it may have been just more a little bit of a matchup thing, because sure enough, he had a great game the other night at Bellarmine. And so I really think, some games I can kind of, we predicted that Blake would get a few more minutes, and he did. Coach is just using him, seems like perfectly. Like he just sort of, again, Jacksonville State, we figured he's going to have more minutes with their big kid. And so I like that he's getting more minutes, and it just really seems like night in, night out, it's going to be kind of the matchups. I think Shiloh, had a hot hand for both Bellarmine and Eastern Kentucky. And I think just coach just sort of, went with him and gave him the majority of the minutes. But Blake's done a real nice job. I don't think you can talk about it enough, the job Blake has done to sort of accept that role. I'm telling you, there's a lot of teams that would sort of fracture, and there'd be rumblings of, I'm not happy, and, transfer portal. And I'm telling you, it's to have guys that are with the character to sort of accept the role. I'm team first. Hey, one night, if I'm playing 7 minutes, I'm fine with it. If I'm playing 27, I'm fine with it. So my hat, tip of the cap to Blake for, it's not bothered him. He's come in, he's done a great job with his minutes, whether they've been, lower or more. And it seems like that for all the guys. They really blend so well together. They have such faith in each other. Different nights, different guys are scoring, and man, they just trust each other so well. And obviously that starts with coach and what the team is about, selflessness and helping each other, and it's team first. And so Blake's living that out. And so we'll have to see what each game brings, but seems like whoever they throw in there just really accepts the role and answers the bell.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Blake has passed our expectations, because I don't think, when he started last year, I don't think we really had any expectations. We just kind of really didn't know, weren't sure if he was, going to be in the starting rotation or coming off the bench. And so in that sense, Blake has done an outstanding job. I mean, he's been a great player for us. And so just as you said, just glad that he takes the role that coach, assigns to him for any given day. I mean, he's a guy that could, he's going to break out at some point and, drop 20, 22 and 12 rebounds one of these days. So I don't think we've seen that quite yet, but we've seen the potential in him to have those kind of games.
Yeah, Naz, I love that you brought up Blake and how well he's accepted his role. You see him on the bench. When Shiloh does something great, he's the first guy jumping up. Um, um, and he's a player that it almost kind of feels, maybe not as, he's not on the level of Scotty James, but almost kind of feels a little bit at times like Shiloh and Blake. Now I know they've played him a little bit together. Kind of feels almost like that Scotty Mayo situation, where Mayo was maybe a little bit better against like some of the more athletic teams like Mississippi State, but Scotty could just dominate, the teams that didn't have the size. And Blake can do that. Blake can absolutely dominate the teams that don't have that big size, just because he can, out physical and, get that, kind of his game working. Yeah, so I definitely like that you brought up the way he's handled it. And really everyone with Liberty. I mean, the transfer portal last year was just crazy with so many, and Liberty didn't lose anyone. That's ridiculous. And that really, I think, speaks to the culture.
Yeah, definitely it does. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that makes Liberty so tough is, they can go a lot of different ways with different lineups and some different skill. Guys have different skill packages, and so real interesting how how coach uses them. But I've always loved how, I mean, going back to Scotty and Mayo. I mean, just Liberty does some great stuff. I mean, obviously you got post up options in the paint. But when they bring the bigs out and up and play out of the high post, they're great passers. Now lately you've seen, Kyle Rode running the point, and it's not a novelty. Like, it's really like teams don't know what to do with that. Like, so your four, you're going to bring your four up, and, it just pulls their guy away from the basket. So it makes some other lanes open. Certainly the nobody's four is able to really bother Kyle enough. I mean, they're starting offense through it. They're able to run offense and kind of takes the pressure off of Darius to have to kind of bring the ball up, start offense, and then try to look for a shot. So it's kind of unique. We've got, again, over the years, we've seen Mayo bring it up and things like that. So it just gives other teams another thing to try to figure out and try to game plan against, and it's really tough. And like you said, they can go big with Blake and Shiloh, or Blake and Kyle, or they can sort of go when you've got Kyle and Shiloh in there. I mean, you can go 5 on the perimeter. You could post one of those guys up. They certainly got Shiloh's athleticism is just a tough matchup. So yeah, a lot of just inner working parts, and again, coach just seems to really know how to utilize them so well.
All right, let's go ahead and update kind of where things stand in the ASUN. Liberty well ahead in the East at 8-1. Jacksonville second at 6-4. Florida Gulf Coast at 5-5. Liberty has, I mean, they've almost wrapped up a first round bye because the top 2 seeds in each division get a first round bye. Naz, what's your thoughts kind of overall on the conference? And if you're watching the show, I'll update where things stand on the bracket. If the tournament started today and where the Ken Palma net numbers go. So Naz, what's your thoughts on the conference overall?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a good conference. I like that just in general that, adding the 3 teams, I think just gives it some real good, more variety and depth. Um, you know, on one hand, it is interesting, there's some, I think like not surprised that Liberty's up there at the top with Jacksonville State. But some other, like every night, I don't know, we say this a lot, but it just seems like every night that there's games, there's some odd game that doesn't make sense. Somebody beats somebody that you never saw coming. And so I don't know if that's just sort of inconsistency or whatnot, but but then the other side of it is you look down that thing and you just say, man, like if you don't play well and the other team gets hot, I don't know, like North Florida's down there, 3-7, but if you get a night where Placer and Hendrickson are raining threes down, I don't want to play. I don't want to play those guys. So I think it's interesting in that regard. I think now you're sort of seeing a little more log jam in the middle. So like on our side in the East, Florida Gulf Coast is playing a little better. Jacksonville, Kennesaw, they're all kind of right there. It's going to be interesting next couple weeks. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And then, I don't know if you want to go to the bracket, that'll be really interesting to sort of see if it ended today, but, matchups are always an interesting thing. So it's not, like you get to the tournament, you get seeded by, your record, but sometimes you look at that seeding and you're more like, man, I don't want to meet, X team because just the way they match up with us. So, somebody that may not have a great record, you just be like, I hope they're in the other side of the bracket, but maybe a little bit too early to kind of get into some of those discussions.
Yeah, and our pal John pointed out as well, John Manson over to See It Red, that they are reseeding again this year. So who knows really even who you would get. I mean, it could really be any of those teams. And we think you wouldn't play a team from the same region, but it's very confusing what exactly they're doing. But yeah, I'm with you. It's been a wild year in the ACE, a lot more upsets. How about Jacksonville State losing to North Florida? That was that really it opened the door. I kind of felt after that loss like, well, I'm a pretty optimistic guy, but I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to make up 2 games on Jacksonville State, and then boom, they turn around and lose by double digits to North Florida at home. At home, it was just wild. So I guess we're kind of up for anything the rest of the way here. Will, what's your thoughts here on the ASUN as we stand on February 6th?
Yeah, I the reseeding thing, if we were just playing straight through the East, I would like our chances a lot better. Looking at that first, possible first round matchup, I feel like we play Stetson in the tournament every single year. But at this point, I'd rather play Stetson than Eastern Kentucky. So yeah, and Florida Gulf Coast, hey, they played us pretty tight earlier on this year, and if it wasn't for Darius, dropping 48 points, it's a different ball game. So yeah, I don't think that there's really an easy road that Liberty is going to have to face through this tournament.
Yeah, definitely will be tough games wherever, and hopefully Liberty can pick up one more game and have a home court advantage throughout, because if you're able to get to that championship, man, having home court advantage, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick, let's look through some of the leaderboards and players. Points per game leaders, of no surprise, Darius McGee still number 1. Keegan McDowell and Shiloh both fighting, 0.1 difference between them for second place. And then on the right, if you're watching, you see the Ken Palm offensive ratings. I'll nerd out here in a minute on that. Paul, what's your thoughts overall on some of the players, maybe who's sticking out to you right now?
Yeah, So, again, no surprise, but, we've talked about it on the show, on the broadcast. You guys have too. I mean, Shiloh's emergence this year. Again, we sort of saw his breakout game, and we kept hearing about what he could be. And this year he's just had such a phenomenal year. You could just see his confidence growing. And everybody said he's got the skills, he's got the ability, and he was sort of like almost like holding himself back. And coach was, just play, man. Everybody's confidence in you. And those first few games, you just saw him, kind of just emerge and break out. His confidence grew. He's been playing so well, both ends, defensively as well as offensively. And then the last, I don't know, 5 games, Kyle Rode has just, you could just see his mindset that he's looking more to be a scorer. And I think that has made us just so much tougher. Again, he's always out there doing something good. And he's always, he was running offense, and he's so critical to Liberty's flow. I mean, gosh, 4 out of the last 5 games, he's had 7 assists. But it just seems like at a crucial moment, man, he's hitting a 3. He's taking a guy off the dribble. Just, little floaters and sort of 4-foot little turnaround hook. And like, he's just really aggressively looking for his shot, and it's made him a tough matchup, and it's really made the team just a lot tougher. There's just nowhere you can cheat off of anybody now when he's looking for a shot. And I just really like it. The guy, I mean, he's never going to take a bad shot. So I just like that he's looking for his shot more. It just keeps the defense really honest. And maybe just one other guy I liked the other night, Eastern Kentucky game. I think Zay Warfield had a really great game. And, we've been talking about his defense, but I'm starting to see him get that confidence. I mean, he hit a big 3. He took a couple off the dribble, and that's what you need. Like, he's getting his minutes are great, and he's playing great D, but you can sort of see him evolving and getting more confidence in his game. So that's nice as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Isaiah. He played really, really well yesterday against Eastern Kentucky. Really awesome to see him, because he works hard, and man, he's always so feisty on the defensive end, and plays really good defense. So nice to see him get reward on the offensive end. Will, anyone standing out to you? I know we've kind of talked about a little bit throughout the show, but anyone else kind of sticking out to you right now?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Naz and Kyle Rode, it seemed like earlier this year he was missing a ton of shots right underneath the basket. Just it seems like he's found that, and so that makes Liberty a little bit more dangerous. But the thing is, though, is he never stopped taking those shots right underneath the basket. He just kept shooting through it until he's kind of found that now. I don't know if you guys heard. Well, Nick, I guess you mentioned earlier the coaches show that they had with Alan York, and like they were all calling him Coach Road. And McKay said that he had called fewer calls offensively in that game against Eastern Kentucky than he had all year, because Kyle Rode was calling all the plays, right? So that's, I mean, that just speaks to his leadership out there. Yeah, I think he is our team leader. I know Darius gets the spotlight a lot, but Kyle Rode is the glue that keeps his team together. And who knows? We've seen Alex McLean be on the coaching staff, and now Coach Mayo is on the coaching staff. Who knows, after Kyle is done playing, he might be on the staff, and maybe 25 years down the road, after McKay retires, maybe Kyle Rode will be our head coach, and that would be awesome. I mean, he's such a great representative for the university. You kind of want a guy like that.
Nah, I want Mayo Baxter-Bell as Liberty's basketball coach. I'm dying for Coach Mayo. I love seeing him on the sidelines. It's just so cool. I don't know. He might be my favorite all-time Liberty player. He's just Naz, I haven't seen any of your games though, so if you get me any clips, you might.
No, you're not missing anything.
you might pass him. Real quick, I want to go through some of the Ken Palm numbers, because I guess that's my shtick at this point. But if you're watching, Keegan McDowell, number 1 at 123.3 offensive rating. Anything above 1 is good. So you probably, if you're watching, you see this graph, you see Darius being down at 5th, and you're like, oh, whoa, how's Darius the 5th best? Well, Darius is also, he's 3rd in the NCAA in percentage of his team's shots that he's taken. So he's just carrying such a ridiculous load. And for him to still be above that 1, shooting that many shots is really, really impressive. But Keegan McDowell, he's 19th in the NCAA in effective field goal percentage, 40th in 3-point percentages of all the players. Shiloh right now is 9th in the NCAA, 9th in the NCAA in effective field goal percentage, top 10, shooting 67.4% from 2-point, 33rd best in college basketball.
Yeah, just to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you can't take the guy off the floor. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not about what Blake can't do. It's just, I mean, Shiloh's just out there doing such great things and putting up great numbers. And then you get to the defensive end too. So it's like, again, it's a great problem to have if you're a coach, you know, having a lot of great players, but sometimes it's hard to get everybody minutes that you want to.
Yeah, I can't believe how efficient he is on the offensive end. He's been incredible. Kyle Rode, kind of a point to add on to what you guys have been saying. When I did this list 3 weeks ago, Kyle Rode was not in the top 7 in offensive rating. He was below that 1, which is kind of like that threshold for, you know, being having a good season or whatever. All the way up to 4th, actually past Darius in offensive rating. Again, a lot less usage, but really just speaks to how great he's been. And you see Blake 3rd. You know, Blake's having a really good season. You know, just it's more about Shiloh at this point. That's a great point, Naz. And then one more point on this. I honestly, when I first looked at this, I was kind of like, wow, Vin Zan is 6th. He's actually, you know, pretty high up on the list in offensive rating. And I kind of dug a little bit more into the numbers. You know, I think we saw he struggled from 3-point, but I looked a little bit more into the numbers. He's shooting 62% on 2-point field goals, and he's 31 of 38 from the line. So while he might be struggling, you know, with this 3-point shot, which I think certainly will come over time, he's been crazy efficient and shooting a really, really good percentage from the free throw line. So, and of course, he plays the really good defense as well, which is, you know, kind of his calling card. So really, really cool to see him so high up. Any other thoughts on any of the players, either one of you guys?
Well, just like, you know, you got to be there. Like, again, I'm glad that he's kind of seeing some minutes here and there. It's not a lot of minutes, but it's minutes at key times. And so, you know, coach trusts him if he's going to put him out there, you know, at those key times. And again, he does some really nice stuff that might not necessarily translate into stats, but, you know, the other day he's up there running the point and gets his guy off balance and takes it all the way down the middle of the lane to score and get to the free throw line. So again, just different combinations. You never know when a number is going to be called, but it seems like everybody that steps out there knows what they're supposed to do. They play within the context and does some nice things. So I'm enjoying seeing that Makai is getting some PR there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to what were they calling him on the broadcast the other night? I don't know.
A bye.
Yeah.
back to back broadcast called him that.
Yeah. I think a B. Like I think he's going to take that next step in his development here soon, kind of like Shiloh has. I think JVZ is a star. He's a really good player. I mean, the fact that he almost dunked on that guy the other night, but it was kind of like running into a brick wall. the guy fell down and JVZ just like stared at him until he realized, oh wait, I didn't make the dunk. You know, like, that was pretty awesome. I just think he's gonna. I mean, he's to me like he is. He's gonna be a lot like Caleb Holmesley, but with a better defense in my mind. That's kind of where I see him going.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, let's we've gone a long time. Sorry to keep you, Naz, and but you've just been so good and so
no, it's just fun.
So good with everything here. Let's close with talking about the upcoming schedule here. Tuesday night we got Lipscomb. Lipscomb's having a tough year, but you know, they're still Lipscomb. They're always tough. They got a Sajala. It'll be so nice to have you guys back on the call. It feels like we've watched 3 games without you guys on the call. Then Liberty at Jacksonville, at North Florida. Liberty gets through these next 3 games. You look at the rest of the schedule, and you know, you don't want to take anything for granted, but you could really see the possibility of maybe Liberty running the table, and at least really putting the pressure on Jacksonville State. Naz, what are you looking forward to with the upcoming schedule?
Well, Lipscomb, and I've said this before, I just don't know what to make of them. They're really like, now, at their heart, I think they're going to come up Tuesday, and they got they got a score to settle with Liberty still. You know what I mean? I think they have not forgotten about that. I think they're going to give us their best shot. But they're just hard to figure out. Like, there's nights where Asajala, looks like a great player that he is. There's other nights he just sort of disappears. There's night that their offense just flounders. I mean, even how about this? Their last game, they're playing Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, first half they're hitting everything. They start the second half. I mean, they score like 8 points till like the 10-minute mark. Like, just even in one game, it's like the tale of two teams. And I think that's been sort of their year, has been like that. So I'm not sure what to expect Tuesday night. I know they're capable, and so we better be ready to play. And again, yeah, I mean, you're just sort of, you got to take them one at a time. But I know going down to Jacksonville is going to be a tough one. I mean, you remember they had a great first half against Liberty in the arena, and again, they've got a bunch of transfer guys and some new team, kind of a new vitality, and they're playing well, so that's going to be a tough one too. So yeah, these next are real crucial.
Yeah, Lipscomb won at Dayton earlier this year. Dayton's a top 70 team, in
Right.
Ken Palm.
Right.
I'm with you. They're very, very difficult to figure out. Ken Palm actually gives Lipscomb an 8% chance of winning against us. And I'm like, oh, I look at that number like, that just doesn't, that like kind of makes my stomach like not feel good. Like, oh, that's too low. Like, that's
Right.
not,
I agree.
I don't know, but yeah, they're a weird team to figure out. Yeah, that'll be a interesting trip. Yeah, North Florida's in Jacksonville as well, so yeah, back to back there. Yeah, Will, you got any thoughts on kind of the upcoming schedule?
Yeah, just looking forward to our home games. Hearing a good broadcast. I like the Lipscomb guys pretty good. They remind me of like some old guys doing NASCAR or something like that. The father and son.
Yeah,
type
yeah, they do
deal.
a good job. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, they do a good job. Lipscomb, Jacksonville, North Florida, Stetson. You don't really feel 100% safe with any of those. So I guess I'm looking forward to Central Arkansas the most.
Yeah, like Will, like you said, I felt the same way. Like you said about the tournament, like we always seem to match up with them, and they always seem to. I don't know. We sort of took care of business down there this year, but they're another one that just you never know. And I know their coach Donnie Jones. He's one of these guys that he'll do some different things. He'll just sort of let's try this tonight, a box and one or a triangle and two, and or we're gonna press. And so he's one of these guys that will sort of vary and come up with some kind of crazy thing to try. And so they've played Liberty pretty tough, and so yeah, it's every time we sort of have to deal with Stetson. It's another one that I just sort of I never feel really solid about. But again, I say that, but Liberty's just, man, they just always. I love how our temperament does, it just doesn't seem to waver at all. We really, and coach has always said that, from day one, it's the next game, and that's all we're going to worry about and talk about. And it's really translated to the guys. You just sort of see them. They never get too ahead of themselves. They never get too up or too down. They just really have that business-like mentality. And it seems like, hey, when it's time to lace them up, they're ready.
Awesome. Well, Naz, it was such an honor to have you join our little show, and gave such great insight into Liberty basketball and all the happenings. And we're just looking forward to the rest of the season, getting to have you back on some calls, and appreciate all you do to promote Liberty basketball and to keep Liberty basketball on the forefront, of the university with the quality of your guys' broadcast.
Well, no, I appreciate it, guys. It's been a great show hanging out with you guys. You guys do a great job. And again, I watch your show weekly. And I'm telling you, I got to talk to Scar, man. We might have to get you guys doing some graphics for us, man. There's things you guys put up with stats and everything, man. You guys take it to another level. So I really like what you guys are doing, and like you said, we're all together in talking about this great team and what we're getting to watch and experience.
Yeah, well, go Flames. If you haven't yet, make sure you guys give us a subscription over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. The VinesPomcast is where you can find that. On YouTube, Liberty Classic Games got some games up as well. Some games with Naz on the call. Don't tell ESPN, but we put the shows on there as well. And we'll be back here again shortly after we get some more games under our belt. But until next time, go Flames.